Hey everyone, I'm Michelle Navedo. Welcome to Friday 420. My guest today literally wrote the book on growing cannabis at home. Over the last 40 years, Jorge Cervantes has published over 50 books on indoor cultivation in 8 languages, and the influence his writing has had on generations of growers is immeasurable. Jorge, it's such an honor to welcome you to the show.
Oh, hey, great, great. Thank you so much, Michelle. It's an honor to be here. I'm just happy to be around, you know. I'm 72 years old and I've had a rough time of it, but things are going all right, actually. Things are
Yeah,
going quite well.
well, I'm happy you're still around too. Um, let's dive right into it. Um, we're going to find out a little bit about your background for the people who are just coming to this and who might not know about you. And then we're going to look at some of the projects that you have going on currently, a new platform that you're
Cool.
building. And we'll talk about that towards the end. But to get us started, I wanted to talk about your very first book, Indoor Marijuana Horticulture. You wrote this book back in 1983, and no publishing company would touch a book about cannabis at that time. So you not only had to physically print the book yourself on an actual printing press, but you did all the photography and the illustrations as well. And so I'm wondering, where did you get this information from? There was no Google, there was no like, where did you assemble all the photographs, the information about growing for this book?
Well, here's the book right here. This is it. It was 96 pages. Yeah, pretty straightforward saddle stitch. That's what they call it when you put a couple of staples in it. Um, well, I worked at a newspaper office during high school, and that's where I learned a lot about printing, and it was just pretty straightforward. But I'd done everything. I made sure that I worked in the dark room. I made sure I learned how to run a printing press, all kinds of stuff. And during that time, that was when the early 80s is when the desktop publishing came out. And that's when you could buy, well, what I remember Tom Alexander that started Seen Some Mia Tips. He had an Osborne computer, used CPM, and I used a K-Pro. But what I did was I typeset it on there. You can see it's like, whoops, here we go, typeset, and everything. And then, like I say, I also worked in the newspaper office, so I knew how
Yeah.
to take photographs. I knew how to take photographs, and my artwork was pretty minimal. But I did manage. Yeah, yeah. We were talking about this Sea of Green before. There's right at first. That was the '80s. Um, but my artwork was kind of like limited. Um, but that's what it was. Yeah, and anyway, what happened was I just knew that there was a need for this because I've been growing for several years and also doing a little bit of dealing and stuff, running loads up and down the coast actually. And it seemed like, man, everybody I knew was into this business. And then we learned about indoor growing when I moved up to Portland, Oregon. And then I wrote this book, and I, I, God, I had to do a lot of research. I mean, a heck of a lot of research, a lot of library time.
Hmm.
And then, anyway, after that, what did I do? I submitted it to different publishers, and I'm really glad that everybody rejected it. They said that there was already enough information about marijuana. We didn't need any
Really?
more. Yeah.
There was none.
So yeah, somebody was out to lunch. Yeah. So anyway, I thought, well, heck, I know how to run a printing press. So I made a deal with the local print shop um, on 82nd Foster Avenue in uh, Portland, or Foster Road in Portland, Oregon, and went in there and used his 1250 multi-lith press and printed it. Yeah, it was a lot of work. It was 8.5 by 11. It was tons of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was rough, but I got through it. And and then this is one of the big things I came up with. the plant inside the bulb.
A lot.
It had been done.
Go ahead.
This had been done before. There's a plant inside the bulb, but it wasn't a HID bulb. It was like, also wasn't a cannabis plant.
I remember them people referring to the lights at that time as bringing street lights indoors, right?
Yeah, exactly. First there was mercury vapor. Those were the ones that kind of turned blue. That's the ones that started. Those weren't as efficient as the metal halide lines. And then after that came the high pressure sodium lines. And they kind of looked, yellow out there. But now all the lighting's changed. It's just much more efficient. It's pretty amazing how much it's changed. Yeah.
But so a challenging process to just many people would have gotten the refusal from these publishing companies and just kind of packed it in and just said, well, this is probably just not meant to be. Then but you actually went and physically made the book, made all of the illustrations yourself, and put it out. But then after going through all the trouble of physically making the book, you have to at that point you had to go door to door to head shops and grow stores to get them to carry it, because the shops at that time didn't even carry books. They would be listed as a criminal organization, basically.
Well, yeah, it was the thing was the head shop could get by with it. They were okay, because they were only selling paraphernalia, and that could be stated it was for tobacco or something else to smoke. But the grow stores, they used to call them hydroponic. Well, they called them hydroponic stores, but before that, they called them halide stores. And actually, the oldest halide store, the oldest hydroponic store, is in Seattle, Washington. Actually, Ballard, and that's Steve Murphy's store.
Yeah, I've been shopping
Indoor Sun Shop.
Yeah, Indoor Sun Shop. Been shopping there for about 15 years now.
Excellent. Yeah, Steve's a great guy. I've known him for years, and now his son, Sean runs the store. Yeah, Steve. Anyways, Steve was a big inspiration to me. But they couldn't show the book, show a picture of the book, or show the book for sale, because they would be hauled in under the RICO laws, racketeering laws, that allows you to use a conspiracy as far as testimony in court. And that means you can use hearsay evidence. It's like a catch-all. The federal government, you just can't trust them, because they said it was going to be used for the mafia, to put the mafia away, and then they said it was going to be used for the Hells Angels, and then they're using it on us, and we're just a bunch of gardeners. My God, come on. We're gardeners, we're not tough guys. Some guys are tough guys. They have to hang out with a lot of tough guys, but it's not me. I don't like any of that stuff.
How did the stores receive the book at the time? Were people super excited about it? Were they like, no, we can't touch this,
No, it depends. Some head shops, they go, yeah, put it over there. I had to put it on consignment. It was a ton of work, let me tell you. But I got this really thick head, just like thick. And sometimes I'm stupid, but other times, I think through stuff, and I believe in myself. I really believe what I'm doing is the correct thing. See, so that's what keeps me going. But they'd say, yeah, I put it on consignment, and they say, yeah, you can put it over there and see if anybody wants to look at it, because a lot of people, most people don't read, and especially books. And then in the head shop, that was in the head shops, and there was quite a few of them back then too. And there still are, I suppose. And then for the grocery stores, that was a lot more difficult, because some of them would carry it, but it had to go under the counter. And ultimately that's what got people popped later for Green Merchant. But I had a solution. what I came up with later was this book here, Gardening Indoors. And it was just like the cannabis book, except I used different plants, you know. It was a little difficult when you talk about dioecious plants, you know, that have both male and female, because there's and then also daylight neutral plants and photoperiodic reactive plants, you know, that need
Yep.
12 hours of light to flower.
So this book was not actually about vegetables.
Well, yeah, you could say it was,
Yeah.
but it was a stretch. It was a stretch. But all I cared about was it worked at the time. You know, it worked at the time, and it worked for people. But pretty much because I wrote that book, and we sold a heck of a lot of them, like hundreds and thousands of them actually, because all of the grocery store owners would recommend this book. They could sell it. It was the only thing happening. There was other magazines and stuff, but Growing Edge hadn't come out by then, and they stopped publication in 1989, and and then Tom, my good friend, he started the magazine called Growing Edge, and that was it was competition, but you know, I mean, we're in the same business, so we get on really well. We're like really good friends. We keep in contact today, actually. Yeah.
You weren't really bumping into any other guys that were publishing actual books on growing marijuana.
No,
It wasn't happening.
No. But also there was other authors too, like for example, Ed Rosenthal and Mel Frank. Especially Mel Frank was really, he has a degree in biology, and he went through the Navy, and then he got a degree in biology after that, the GI Bill, and he's quite the scholar, always has been. Yeah, so there was competition, but it was only on that side. It wasn't on the other side with the grocery stores.
At a certain point, I know that the government started raiding the grocery stores and I think the head shops, from what I understand. And then a lot of your friends at that time ended up going to prison. Were you worried about going to jail?
Yeah, I was worried. I didn't sleep a lot. It was really spooky because I had done a lot of things that I suppose could be called illegal. You know, and so and
Like
a lot
writing
of
a book.
people
Yeah.
I knew, and yeah, you know, and I had a grocery store that I'd shut down actually, but I didn't go to jail. What happened was they arrested only people, or they targeted only people that advertised in High Times. I was writing High Times at the time. Back then I would just do feature articles. And gosh, so what happened was all of those guys got popped one day. It was a Thursday in October, and 1989 is when it happened. So I started in 1983, and it was turbulent for, you know, about the first 15 years.
Yeah.
Maybe 20, I guess. Yeah, and they arrested people, gosh, I mean, tons of friends, because it was a small world back then. We all knew each other, you know, and we had a hydroponic convention that we could go to, and that was, well, what the cannabis coffee didn't start until, I don't know, about that time, maybe I just don't remember when it started, but remember I used to, like in the early 80s, I used to go over and visit Neville all the time. Yeah, and he started the seed bank and stuff in the Netherlands over in Nijmegen. Actually lived in Lent, which is right over by the Wall River. But yeah, it was pretty rough times, and they were real hard on everybody, because see, at that time the Soviet Union had just broken up. And the United States always needs an enemy. They got to have an enemy, right? So the enemy they chose was us because we couldn't fight back.
Yeah,
We're
the war on
like,
drugs. Yeah.
exactly. And so, and it goes along with the big pharmaceutical companies, their desires and everything. So they're not going to stop it. In fact, they're going to promote it, But yeah, so anyway, they chose us as an enemy. And they didn't find a new enemy for quite some time,
Yeah.
another about 10 years,
Yeah.
And now it's terrorism, and I don't know what else.
Back then
They always,
they needed a war. They needed something to
yeah,
start.
they need a war. They always have one.
Yeah.
So anyway, they chose us, and it was hard times. In fact, let me see. I got one of these books here. This one. Here, this one. This here. I had to wear a disguise.
I have a question about that, but I'm going to ask you in a moment. But
Okay.
so
Yeah, it's a German book.
In the 90s, we're still in the 90s, and Canadian Customs would stop your books and destroy them. And the Australian government actually banned your book for import, Indoor Marijuana Horticulture.
Yeah.
It wasn't until 1994, so about 11 years or so after the first publication, that your books were actually able to finally legally cross a border and be sold.
Yeah.
It went into Canada, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Must have just been, what was that feeling like to finally, come out from underneath this?
Oh man, it was real rough because like I've got a lot of Canadian friends. I've been to Canada a lot of times, especially BC, because at the time I lived in Portland, Oregon. So it's like a 3.5 hour drive, or four. Well, no, it's about like 5 hours to get up to BC. But there was tons of going on up there, and they look at things a little bit differently than they do in the United States. The United States is kind of like military base, and Canadians, they're pretty nice, in general. I love Canadians. I got a lot of Canadian friends. And so anyway, yeah, I put them in, oh man, all kinds of different things. I tried everything. And I put them in, try to ship them in bulk mail, ship them in one way or another way, from different addresses, everything, because I had experience from of that, from shipping so many things in the mail. But they always would catch them. I mean, always they beat them up and send them back. And I do that anywhere from every month to every 3 to 4 months, And they'd always tell me that it was the Americans that beat them up, and then the Americans would say it was Canadians, because I looked into it and stuff. And so that just went on. I figured
they could have just returned the books to you, but they had to actually physically destroy them and then return them to you.
Yeah. Well, they'd make them unsellable, is what they do. They'd like open them up and rip them, or fold the covers, all of that. Take them out of the box and put them in a big post office bag and shake them up. Just
Unbelievable.
malicious stuff to me. Anyway, so that's what happened, and we just got over it.
Yeah.
And thanks to Mark Emery, he's the one that got books in, and he started, later, Cannabis Culture magazine.
In Canada, yeah.
And then in Australia, we continued to smuggle in there. I was sending them books in there for like 5 or 6 years, 5 years, I think. Yeah, because at one time they had like about 120 grow stores in Australia, and there's like 9 million people that live there, I think.
Wow.
If it arrives at that, and so that's quite a few years to go. And then they started catching us. They started doing this thing, redlining. They'd redline the boxes, and then because we'd always called them Bibles, they were always Bibles. And then they start. Well, it was,
was a bit of a Bible for
The,
people.
yeah, it was. It
Growers.
definitely was. For a lot of people, it was for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but what happened was it took them 3 years to catch us because we kept switching things around. And the importer there was really a good guy. He had head shops there, the biggest head shop chain in Oz. And so finally, it took them from the time we hit the first red line to the time that they would catch us every time was 3 years, 3 full years, full calendar years. Yeah, and it cost them over $1 million US to catch. So that's, I mean, we run them out. We ran that censorship board out of money. It's what we, well, I mean, a good bit of money. You know, I don't know what their budget is, but I know that we cost them that much. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because they had like a $4 million budget, I think, for censorship, and they had to pay all the employees and stuff. Yeah, I got a registered letters and stuff from them.
From the Australian government.
Yeah, from the censorship board, from the because they're part of the Commonwealth, you know,
Yeah.
UK, just like Canada is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You
So
you held up a book of you in disguise, but before we get to that, the further, I'm trying to say, the later editions of your books featured other people on the cover,
oh
not you,
yeah,
but like friends that you would put on the cover, and it was kind of genius because having a face on the cover helped to normalize the book, and kind of clean up
yeah.
the image, right?
Whoops. Here's
Yeah,
one. This is my buddy Sergidor. This
yeah,
is Spanish edition
yeah.
of Guerrilla Growers. This did really well, especially here, and it did well early on. Early on, it did real well, and now it doesn't sell so well because people don't have to guerrilla grow so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did real well, and then here's another one. This one I did. This is Mike Yasina. He's on the cover. I did another one with Harmon. Oh yeah, this one. These are a bunch of straight books I did. This a whole series of gardening indoors. These sold at the grow stores. Yeah, but this one's Gene, my buddy Gene that had a radio talk program. He's a member of the Garden Writers.
Huh.
Yeah, he lives in Reno, Nevada. Here's another one. I figured I'd mix it up. I put another friend of mine on Vivica. She was a representative for Grodan Rock Wool.
At this point, when you
Um,
were on the cover, people were finally like, okay, wait, this is not Jorge Cervantes. Like, who is Jorge Cervantes? There was this mystery around who you were. Did you kind of stoke that mystique around your identity?
Yeah, I didn't think about much about it until one of my friends, Hank Gonzalez, said, he goes, Jorge, you should start making sightings, talk about sightings of Jorge and where he was and things. Because, in fact, a lot of people said they knew me, and I had no clue about a meeting. Any of like a lot of people just made stuff up, and which was fine with me. It increased knowledge levels. I mean, not about who I was, but about it kind of like shifted the blame away from me. Yeah, in fact, one time I was with several friends, and this person said they knew me, and I was in the room. I had to leave the room because I was laughing so hard. They kept making stories up. It was kind of funny. Yeah, yeah.
I wonder if people saw the folks that you put on the cover and they're like, there he is, there's Jorge Cervantes.
That was the idea. That was the idea. I just wanted to, I don't know, to me it was just a joke.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have a good time. I didn't think about, making the mystique or anything. I just thought, oh, wouldn't this be funny? We'll just kind of like tease everybody a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was also for the cops too.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't know
Keep
what
them
I
off
was.
your trail.
Yeah, because I mean, I had a bit of an attitude about law enforcement,
Mm.
because they and also a lot of things, government people that would they and then see that the cops they came over to my house like on numerous occasions, when both when I lived in Washington State and then Oregon as well, and uh, oh.
What did they come to your house for? What was the? It
Uh,
wasn't a bust, or they would have taken you to jail.
they okay. One time I took all the curtains out of my house in both houses that I had. They came to my house. The guys had been drinking beers and they had arrested one of my friends and they took a book off of him and they wanted me to sign it. And I said no, I wouldn't do that. And I asked them to leave my property. And when they were slow to do it, I uh, asked them in a much different voice, let's say. Just get off my property, you
Yeah,
boys. You just get off my property.
yeah.
You know. Another time, they came out when I lived in the country. They came out to that house several times, 3 different times, and finally, I'd had it. They I'd had it, and so I asked my lawyer because they always leave you a business card, right?
Mm.
And I confronted him several times, and uh, then my lawyer John Knighty calls him up, and and he says he asked if I was under arrest. He asked officer, he says, and my real name is George Van Patten. So he said, is Mr. Van Patten under arrest? And he said, no. Is Do you want to pay him for advice? And they said, and the officer said no. And says, well, anything after that is called harassment. Harassment. And if you harass my client one more time, we'll see you in court.
Yeah, that's
And that stopped those guys. But there was this group called the Tri-County Task Force that was Multnomah County, Clark County, and Clackamas County. It was
in Oregon.
Oregon and Washington.
Oh,
And those guys, nobody knew what their budget was. And
hmm,
all they did was go out and bust grows,
hmm.
different people that were growing. And they could pretty much get away with all kinds of stuff because they had that coat of blue and everything. And then when those guys told me, when they said, I'm just doing my job, that's when I lost it. I said, look, you could do anything. You could pick up shit and you'd be able to look yourself in the mirror,
Yeah.
you know, and because I can't look at you right now because you make me sick, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
After all you'd been,
anyway, those
you-
are bad memories. I have a lot
after
of
you've been,
other fun stuff.
yeah, well, no, it's understandable after all your friends that ended up going to prison and after all the pressure
Yeah,
that they put on you. I mean, it seems like intimidation at that point. But um,
it is.
so
They're good
for
at it.
you kept your identity hidden. We had other people on your covers, but then in 2005 you actually appeared in a High Times DVD wearing a
Yeah,
disguise. You showed us a photo earlier.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. This
my
one here.
question is, who came up with the Rasta costume?
It was me. I came up with it. It was because see, I could go to the costume store and get dreadlocks, and I lived in Spain for I've been been here on and off because I live in Spain now. I live in Barcelona, Spain, and I've been coming here for years or to Europe for years. So I had several berets around. And so I thought, let's see what would work. What would work? And I thought, Che Guevara, Bob Marley. That's a good cross. And so that's what I did. I did the top was Che, and the sides were Bob Marley. And two, like I'm blonde,
Yeah,
right? Or well, I don't know if it's still blonde. I think I'm blonde. I think it's getting gray now. But anyway, the guys, I figured I should change my hair color and everything, And I didn't realize this would last so long, I mean, I had to wear a disguise for like 15 years, like heck. But it worked really well because that was before the internet, before they had internet at the borders. And I lived up in Canada, in BC, for a couple of years, and then also in Netherlands, and later Spain. And so I went across the borders a lot. And now they just run your name on Google, or there's a program that runs your name on Google, and they can check anything out about you, aliases and all kinds of stuff. But
Yeah.
back then it was only Interpol and the DEA. That's so those are the only two guys you had to get around, and it was a lot easier with the disguise. Yeah, worked really well.
Amazing. Jorge, I wanted to ask you, moving on, we're going to talk about the new platform you're building next, but I wanted to ask you a question that's on my mind. And I wanted to know if there's something that you've written about over the years. Years later, your opinion changed because of
Oh
new
yeah,
scientific evidence. There's something that,
tons of stuff.
yeah,
But lots of stuff. I've been wrong, I mean, the thing is, if you're wrong, just admit it and move on, I mean, that's why you have science-based information.
yeah,
But okay, like one of the things I did was changed it on LED lights because the lights changed, the lights have gotten better.
yeah,
One of the big things, I used to be a big anti of removing leaves on plants, because I'd see people do that, and nobody could tell me. I couldn't get good research on it. I couldn't get somebody to say, look, I did it with this plant and this plant, or these 6 plants and these 6 plants, and they're both the same variety, the same growing conditions, and this one produced like 6% more or 12% more.
mm,
Now there's proof. Now
yeah,
there's proof. So I turned around on that.
mm,
Another big one here was, but I turned around on this some time ago. But we just wrote an article. I did it with my good friend Gary Yates. He's got a doctorate degree in microbiology, and also genetics as well. Anyway, so it was about flushing
mm,
or leaching the soil. It was
yeah,
supposed to pull the stuff out, pull the nutrients out of the plant itself. It doesn't work like that. It's what it does is it simulates fall time, and that's what it reinforces flowering, and it speeds flowering up a little bit.
mm.
Um, that's what it does. That's why it works.
Which
But
we're talking about. Yeah.
yeah. But the final flush, all of that stuff, that's all. It's worthless to put on,
Hmm.
you know. Yeah, and so the big thing is, and two, like I don't have a degree in science. I can write and I can read and I know how to research, or I used to really well.
Hmm.
Now it seems like I'm just old and slow. There's so many new things going on. So the big thing I'm into now is science based, data driven information.
Hmm.
You got to prove it, and there's a lot of really smart people out there. This whole industry's grown so much that and I've been really fortunate to know a lot of these really smart people, and they're literally better educated than me, and that's pretty darned exciting, to be able to continue this, and this push for cannabis legalization and growing. That I get to hang out with a lot of smart people. It's a lot of fun.
And so that's kind of the idea behind the new platform. Yeah, we're aiming to kind of bring these voices together and the cultivation science and research. Can you tell us a little bit more about the project?
Yeah. It's okay. It's science based. Science based. We got and data driven. Okay, and let's see. I got some notes here because there's quite a bit to it. The
There's
main
a lot.
thing is the main thing is we're building a community. because there's two things that's been happening, two big things. Number one, and this is what I get the most feedback on, is censorship. Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, but all the social media, they all censor stuff, and people lose their accounts all the time. I mean, I see people that I know for years, and they've got like 12 followers, or 15 people. They just lost their account, or I hear this all the time.
Yeah.
Or you get shadow banned. That's what's happened to me a lot of times, shadow banned. And that's where you only get out to a small audience. There's only a few people that are able to read your stuff. And they literally hold you back. So instead of the DEA and the Interpol, we're really against
Meta.
this guy Zuckerberg and people like him, that are conservative, that go along with the government censorship, and they're omnipresent, because it's like, so for example, the DEA starts an investigation on you. Okay, they got one investigation, they do it about specific stuff, and if you've got any wherewithal about you, you can usually find out a bit about it. Okay, and so to back off. Okay, with this stuff, you never know. You never know. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's really, really pretty bad, pretty rough.
Yeah.
And I'm having the same feelings as when I wrote the first book here. It's just like that.
Well, we have new information, new research coming out, and then there's these organizations that are kneecapping us, basically, like trying to stop the flow of information from coming out.
Exactly. And so a little bit comes out, but this is what really gets me. It's just like the cop telling me, he goes, I'm just doing my job. Okay, well, these high-tech guys are also doing their job. They scrape all of my information. They scrape all of your information. They scrape everybody's information. That's where they just take it without your permission. They scrape it off of the internet. And then they've got it and you don't, but they censor me. So they're playing both sides against the middle, and I've had it up to here. It's just real frustrating. And so I got to do something about it. I threatened before, but now I've got all my ducks lined up, man. I'm like organized and stuff. And I got internet people that just, they know way more than me, and because I've always been kind of like slow with the technological stuff. I'm good with the green fingers, I got the fingers good, but it's a real problem. So that's a big thing, that the censorship, and then too, just lack of information, bad information, misleading information, sales-oriented information, or just bro science. People that just and that's a lot of what I had to go on before was and just things that I could run down myself. But there's a lot of, even now, still misinformation out there, and that's why I want to. It's going to be science-based, data-driven. That's very important, very important. And so, and right now in the community, we're voting on a name. We've got several names listed, and everybody's there continuing to give more names. And so, please, there's going to be a link down here for us for you to be able to vote on a name. But the video comes out on this Friday, so this is cool. You'll be able to see it and vote as soon as possible. Please do. And when you vote, you're going to put your name into the bin to get a free signed book by me. This one, it is 10 years old, but I'm rewriting it now. But I need your help. I need your input to rewrite it. And it's it's a 600-page, 8.5 by 11 book. Anyway.
Well,
so
I'm hoping to win the book, because I entered the thing. I entered a name for your
excellent, perfect.
So hopefully other people will come along and enter and give you some suggestions for a name for the platform, and get a chance to win.
Sure. I'm really looking forward. But see, we start already with community because it's important what everybody thinks. Because, well, for example, I always ask what people think. Because, for example, here in this book here, my first book, I made a
Yeah.
survey right here, and the last question in the survey was what? Did you, a thief or the cops harvest your crop?
Hopefully it
It's
was the
about
first.
indoor growing, right? Yeah. So it's, but anyway, and you'll also be listed as a founding member, and you get like a little icon or something next to your name like that. Um, so that'll be cool. But yeah, yeah, I'm rewriting this book. And by the way, you can get this book for free on the internet on my site, the marijuanagrowing.com, for free.
The download.
Uh, yeah, download for free.
Yeah.
And it's in 11 languages now.
Wow.
We got all five European languages, plus we're into Central European languages now as well.
So
So
the new platform. So research. I've been reading about it. So research roundups explaining recent findings from the
yeah,
scientific community.
yeah. Because see, and I'm really fortunate because I know a ton of people, and yeah, it's kind of weird because I mean I look at all of these guys as being so much better educated and versed than me than that and stuff, and they've got PhD degrees and advanced agriculture degrees and degrees I don't have. You know, I mean I've got a Bachelor of Arts degree, but it's not a hard science degree like these guys have. And everybody's read my material. Everybody's read my books.
Hmm.
So I get um, they all have a soft spot in their heart for me because I helped them so much, and
Yeah.
in a lot of cases, it changed people's lives.
Yeah.
Um, so, they selected cannabis as a career, for example.
Hmm.
And they credit me with that. And I said, no, it's you guys. You're the ones that are doing the work, not me. I just point you in the right direction. That's all. Well, now, everybody, it's really easy to get these guys to help out.
Yeah.
Like, well, you had him on your program
Dominique.
earlier last week, Dominique
Yeah.
from Inexo, that it's in the South Netherlands. Yeah, I mean, he's just, well, I met him like, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago at a fair and trade fair here in Europe. And we've known each other. We stayed in contact with each other all the time. He's great, and
Yeah.
he's just one example. Gary Yates is another example. Gosh, and there's a ton more. I don't want to keep going on with names and names, but yeah, there's like at least 18 more. That's how many I've got so far to sign up to share information
There are
with
18
us.
scientists and researchers that are going to be part of the kind of consortium, sort of.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. And
Um,
that's for starters, and we're gonna continue after that. Yeah, but okay. But for example, with Dominique, one of the things we came up with is consistently growing plants indoors. Be them they can be from seed or from cuttings or clones, they call them. Those plants can be they've got they can grow and go straight from the initial growth stage to flowering, and they don't need a vegetative growth period.
I skipped the veg
Some
side.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, and that just saves money. It
Yeah.
saved like 40% in labor and about the same in lighting as well. Because those are 18-hour days. So man, it's a big thing. And what else? Oh yeah, and it depends on how the plants are grown up until the time that you flip the lights down to 12 hours.
Yeah.
You know, the roots have to be just perfect. And you know, like up at the last acceleration days that Nexo had, there was the guy Timo, one of the interns, that did a presentation on that, like a 20-minute presentation with photographs and everything that shows you exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and they have 4 different categories that one of the categories worked fine, 2 of them worked okay, but you know, you've got to grow your plants just like that, and it works, and it's data driven information, you know, scientific information. And then here's another thing, like Dominique did was to they started using side lighting, you know,
Yeah.
on the haze plant. Yeah, and they went from like 600 watts down to 250 watts that they were able to use, and with the
Same
LED
result.
lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a huge difference, huge money saving, huge labor saving,
Yeah.
and it's a big deal to me, you
Yeah.
know.
It's a big deal to everyone. It changes the way that we grow, and the work that Dominique is doing is doing that, is changing the way that we grow. I know many people that have been influenced just through the Friday 420s from hearing Dominique speak about the no veg technique.
Yeah.
People coming on saying, "Oh, I've tried this," and you know, talking about the results and things like this. So the part of the focus then of the platform is combining this kind of science and collaborating with the experience, with the
Yes.
people who have put in the hours and the years with the experience, right?
Yeah.
Bringing these together.
The job of the community is to take the science-based information, because all of these scientists, they've got a lot of it, and they just think differently. You know, they're not publishers, they're not PR guys. They like hanging out in a grow room and hanging out in the lab. You know, they're into that, and that's where their focus is. So it's basically to put the scientists in touch directly with the growers.
Hmm.
That's what the community's all about. And you know, growers are just going to benefit from it. Everybody's going to benefit. It's got to be a win-win situation all the way around. Um, I'm pretty excited. Well, I'm real excited about it. You know, like for example, there's 33 different markers, 33 markers that they found in cannabis plants, in the genes of cannabis plants. You know, they know they know what makes the specific genes that make an auto flowering plant, for example, and those genes can be moved into, with selective breeding, into all kinds of different strains or varieties. They can't, and it's straightforward stuff, you know. But you've got to be able to have the numbers. You've got to be able to have a scientific study of the genetic background. Because now most people, you know, they call it an art and stuff. Yeah, maybe it is, but more, it's really a science, a true science, and the more markers that we find, the better off we're going to be. Like, for example, powdery mildew markers been found, you know, these are important things, you know. We can develop plant root systems. You know,
Yeah.
it's big stuff. It really is, and we got a lot of catching up to do. We got a heck of a lot of catching up to do, because all of the other plants, you know, they're not illegal, and this one is. But you know, we've got now inexpensive technology, lots of really smart, motivated people, and lots of willing growers. So we've got all it takes to move, you know, really decades in a few years, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
That's so exciting. For the most part, the home growers out there are really hungry for this information.
Yes,
because it's going to directly affect the way that they grow. And I think that's one of the things that I enjoy so much about what Dominique is doing at Nexo, is that he's sharing that information with the community. There's a lot of research that goes on behind closed doors for companies that sometimes never reaches the light of day. You know, it doesn't reach the home grower, you know, until maybe
No.
years later. But it's amazing to have a funnel, right, where this information can go out to the public
Yeah.
and be put into practice.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so much of the stuff, that's done is owned by the company,
Yep. Proprietary.
proprietary. Again,
Yep.
some words are difficult. Yeah, so proprietary information, and so it never reaches the light of day, like you say. But we got a plan now. We got a plan, and we got a lot of really smart people involved. And it's never been just me alone. I've been able to put my name on books because I'm the workhorse. I'm the guy that with the thick head that keeps doing the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now we got a whole lot of people, and we're just going to move ahead, uh, just like a freight train.
So exciting.
So I'm real excited about it, and then also it's worldwide, everywhere in the world. And I've done a lot of traveling, as you might guess, but um, I'm really looking forward to involving Latin American growers from the tropics,
Yeah.
places where they got 12 hours of light all day long.
Yeah.
That's what the norm is. With this no veg stuff, they don't even need to develop specific varieties for that climate. And 12 hours, man, that goes like pretty much from oh gosh, uh, what, San Luis Potosí in northern Mexico, or no, Monterrey and Monterrey in northern Mexico,
Yep.
all the way down. Gosh, where San, no, not as, but Arique, Chile. It goes all that. I mean, all that's like 12-hour time. And there's a ton of people that live there, like literally millions and millions of people that live in that zone. And no veg for those guys. Yeah,
it's a game changer.
yeah, totally. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to a lot of stuff.
Super
A
exciting.
lot of stuff. Yeah.
Well, Jorge, we're running out of time. I just wanted to say thank you so much for being on the show. I was trying to think before we started. I was trying to think of the number of people that were influenced by your writing to start, cultivating, to start growing cannabis, and it's immeasurable. I mean, I can't even. Hundreds of thousands of people must have, over the years, over 40 years, maybe even more, have been influenced by your writing. So it's such an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jorge.
Oh, gee, thanks. Thanks, Michelle. It's those guys did the work. I mean, it's just I do what I do, and I've been doing an okay job of it, and now I'm excited to be able to go to the next level.
How can people find out more about the platform?
Well, let's see. They can come to marijuanagrowing.com. That's the main site, and then there's Jorge-Cervantes.com. That's for if people want to interview me, or there's all kinds of stuff, a lot of stuff about my books, and more stuff about me than anything else. But for cultivation and stuff, and the books are located on marijuanagrowing.com, and that marijuana with a J rather than with the H or G, the marijuana. The Mexicans spell it with the G a lot of times.
Jorge, it's been such a pleasure. I'm Michelle Navedo, Jorge Cervantes. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.